And hello, everyone. This is meteorologist Greg Fields. We do want to update you on what's going on with Hurricane Milton. We've been tracking this all week, and as we know, it made landfall yesterday evening in Florida there. Landfall 7:30 our time here locally and near Siesta Key, in Siesta Key. That's between Sarasota and Siesta Key there in Sarasota, just south of Sarasota, where it made landfall as a major Category 3 hurricane with those 120-mile-per-hour winds when it slammed on shore there. So they had been feeling the effects even earlier in the day from the storm, and it officially made landfall 7:30 p.m. our time yesterday evening. Now it continues to trek on across the peninsula here early today, and it will continue to do so, eventually getting out into the Atlantic, but it is certainly going to be packing a punch as it does so. Those winds still, with the latest update that we had this morning, 85-mile-per-hour winds, and movement off to the north and northeast, 18 miles per hour. So it's about to move off into the Atlantic. Here once again, it's north of Melbourne, south of Daytona Beach, and you see where that is. Still a Category 1 hurricane, about to get out over the Atlantic once again and continue on that easterly track and eventually weakening. But again, this has been a powerful storm. Again, it was a major hurricane when it came on shore with those 120-mile-per-hour winds. So lots of damage that we'll be assessing now that the sun is coming up here as we go through the day today and seeing just the damage that was done from Hurricane Milton there. So it will move offshore a little bit later today, but they're still going to be feeling the effects of this storm as well, with plenty of heavy rain. You see north of Daytona Beach, still going to have some bands of some heavy showers wrapping around that circulation. So we're talking about maybe an additional 6 to 8 inches of rain in some areas. Flooding still going to be a concern with this storm as well. So not quite done with Milton yet. Eventually it will get out into the Atlantic a little bit later on today. Those winds still quite gusting. They were and have been, with those winds gusting. Orlando, 72-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Look at Daytona Beach, a little closer to the center of that circulation, 85-mile-per-hour winds. So those winds are still going to be packing a punch as that storm moves on up to the east and back a little part of the west. Winds beginning to taper off, but still Kissimmee, 56-mile-per-hour winds. Melbourne up close to 40 miles per hour, along with Cocoa Beach. So still going to have some very strong gusty winds associated with Milton as well before it moves out to sea eventually a little bit later on today. So yes, those 85-mile-per-hour wind gusts certainly going to do some damage there. Hurricane force winds still that they're going to be dealing with here for the next couple of hours before that storm moves on out. The rain's going to be the other issue, still dealing with storm surge as well. We'll show you that coming up here in just a bit, but flooding going to be a concern. Flash flooding with heavy rain. Daytona Beach down to Edgewater. You can see that still portions of inland from Daytona Beach into central Florida. Still going to have some very heavy rain associated with this. So we're not quite done with that. Florida isn't yet. And as you see, as we zoom out a little bit more north of Daytona Beach, the heavier bands out into the Atlantic still right now, but some of those will spin onshore, getting up toward Jacksonville. Still going to have some heavy rain, and you see that stretching back into portions of central Texas or central Florida as well here for this morning. So we're still going to have some very heavy rain associated with that, some strong winds before the storm eventually moves on out, and it will continue working its way out. But you can see the warnings that are still in effect from Orlando, Melbourne, Fort Pierce. Still looking at the hurricane warnings that are in effect up to Daytona Beach, and you see those stretching up to Jacksonville as well, with the tropical storm and hurricane warnings that's still in effect, and those go all the way down to West Palm Beach. So the east coast of Florida now will be dealing with the effects of the storm of Milton right now. Still a Category 1 hurricane before it eventually moves out to sea as we go through the morning here, getting into the afternoon. So yes, it's still going to be packing a punch over the next several hours. Not quite done with the effects of the storm yet, as we take a look at the track that gets it out into the Atlantic a little bit later today. And you see it moves on out south of Bermuda, so it will weaken and stay south of the island of Bermuda as it moves out into the Atlantic a little bit later on. So still a Category 1 storm. Those 85-mile-per-hour winds still going to be gusting associated with the storm as it moves off to the north and east, and eventually weakening as it works its way out into the Atlantic. So again, this is one of those storms that is going down in the history books, as we've been talking about since 1979, the fourth lowest pressure associated with this storm. You can see the millibars, 897 millibars there. Since 1996, the strongest storm, 180-mile-per-hour winds in the Gulf this late in the season. So typically, once we get into October, things begin to wind down. But again, with the above normal temperatures that we've seen and have had to deal with in the area there in the Gulf of Mexico, those above normal temperatures that we've had all season there. This storm exploded very quickly. As we know, it did have that intensification from just a disturbance all the way up to that Category 5 strength that it did have at times as it worked its way up toward the Florida coast. Since 1950, one of 3 storms in the Gulf with winds 180 miles or higher. So again, this is a historic storm, especially for this late in the season that we've been dealing with. And you can see only 5 storms in the Atlantic have been stronger, and the strongest was Allen with 190 mile per hour winds. So this storm is right up there with the all-time strongest storms. And as we look at that list, as we go down the list, starting with Allen in 1980, down to Wilma in 2005, Dorian in 2019 at 185 mile per hour winds, and you see where Milton falls into that as well. Here this year, 180 mile per hour winds, along with Rita. We remember that one, Irma as well, back in 2017, and Katrina, of course, in 2005, and 9 others with 175 mile per hour winds. So this has been a historic storm, a devastating storm. We will still continue to assess the damage now that the storm is moving out into the Atlantic. The sun is coming up, but lots of damage, and this is in the wake of Helene just less than 2 weeks ago that the folks had to deal with in Florida there as well. So as we take a look at the Category 5, 157 miles or higher, so that's what we've been dealing with, and you see where Milton falls in on that list. So yes, a very strong, powerful storm, and we will be assessing the damage. So let's go back and give you kind of a recap of where the storm is, what it's going to be doing as we head into today. The latest update that we have is almost back out into the Atlantic, though, moving off the Space Coast now near Cape Canaveral, Melbourne just north of there, south of Daytona Beach as a Category 1 storm. It's moving off to the northeast at 18, so you see 10 miles northeast of Cape Canaveral, Florida. So it came on shore, as we talked about, as a powerful Category 3 major hurricane with those 120 mile per hour winds just north of Sarasota there, south of Sarasota in Siesta Key, and that will continue to work its way off into the Atlantic a little bit later today. So we will have updates, of course, on all of our social media platforms as we go throughout the morning. We'll keep following Milton, and we'll be assessing the damage throughout the day. But now we'll get you the next time.